Look up at the night sky. What do you see? You see stars, galaxies, a boundless universe filled with infinite possibilities. You probably believe that out there, orbiting those distant suns, there might be other planets, maybe even other life. Today, this is basic astronomy. It is a fundamental truth we teach our children. But imagine living in a world where simply having this thought could get you tortured, locked in a dark dungeon for years and ultimately burned alive at the stake. In the year 1600, the night sky was not a canvas of wonder. For the authorities of the time, it was a closed dome, a rigid ceiling created by a strict deity, and humanity was at the absolute center of it all. To challenge this was to challenge God himself, but one man dared to look beyond the dome. He imagined an infinite universe with infinite worlds. His name was Giordano Bruno, and for his limitless imagination he paid the ultimate price. He was born Filippo Bruno in 1548 in the small town of Nola, just outside the bustling, vibrant city of Naples in southern Italy. It was the height of the Italian Renaissance, a time of artistic explosion and rebirth, but also a time of terrifying religious control. The Catholic Church and the Inquisition watched everyone and everything. As a young man, Filippo was exceptionally brilliant. He had a mind that soaked up information like a sponge. Looking for an avenue to channel his intellect, he entered the strict Dominican order in Naples and took the name Giordano. The Dominicans were known as the Hounds of the Lord, fierce defenders of orthodox theology. For a while, the young friar thrived. He became famous for his staggering feats of memory. He developed a mnemonic system so powerful that he traveled to Rome to demonstrate it to Pope Pius V, but underneath the monk's robes beat the heart of a rebel. Giordano could not contain his curiosity. While he was supposed to be studying approved theology, he was secretly reading forbidden texts. He devoured the works of banned philosophers, ancient mystics, and daring contemporary thinkers. He began to question the Holy Trinity, the divinity of Christ, and the rigid dogmas of the Church. By 1576, his secret was out. An indictment was being prepared against him. Knowing the horrors of the Inquisition, the young friar abandoned his robes, slipped out of Naples, and began a life on the run. He would never see his home again. For the next 15 years, Giordano Bruno became the ultimate wandering intellectual of Europe. He was a fugitive, but he was also a rock star philosopher. He traveled to Geneva, but his radical ideas quickly clashed with the strict Calvinists who ran the city. He moved to France, where his incredible memory tricks caught the attention of King Henry III. The French king was so fascinated by Bruno's mind that he became his patron, providing him with a temporary shield of royal protection. It was during this time, moving from Paris to London and then to Germany, that Bruno began to publish the explosive ideas that would seal his fate. He had read the works of Nicholas Copernicus, the astronomer who proposed that the Earth revolved around the sun. But where Copernicus was cautious, Bruno was entirely fearless. Copernicus still believed the universe was a closed sphere of fixed stars. Bruno looked at the mathematics, looked at the sky, and went much, much further. He declared that the universe has no center and no boundaries. He argued that the stars we see in the sky are not just lights on a celestial ceiling, but actual suns, exactly like our own. And if they are suns, he reasoned, they must have their own planets orbiting them. And if they have planets, why wouldn't they have life? Plants, animals, perhaps even intelligent beings created by the same divine force. God, according to Bruno, was infinite. Therefore, an infinite God could only create an infinite universe. To say the universe was small and closed was to insult the limitless power of the Creator. He saw the divine not as an entity sitting on a cloud, but as an animating force present in every blade of grass, every drop of water, every star, and every human soul. Today, we might call this pantheism or early cosmology. In the late 16th century, it was pure, unadulterated heresy. Bruno didn't just write these things, he shouted them from the rooftops. He was arrogant, charismatic, and deeply uncompromising. He debated professors at Oxford, calling them pedants and fools when they couldn't grasp his vision. He made enemies everywhere he went because he refused to dilute his truth to spare the feelings of the powerful. Despite his arrogance, or perhaps because of it, his reputation grew. And that is exactly what led to his downfall. In 1591, a wealthy Venetian nobleman named Giovanni Mocenigo invited Bruno to Venice. Mocenigo wanted to learn the secrets of Bruno's incredible memory. Venice was considered the most liberal state in Italy, relatively safe from the long arm of the Roman Inquisition. Thinking he would be protected by the Venetian Republic's independent spirit and deeply missing his homeland, Bruno made the fatal decision to return to Italy. But Mocenigo was not a good student and Bruno was not a patient teacher. The nobleman grew frustrated. He also became terrified of his tutor's radical, heretical rantings. Believing Bruno to be involved in dark magic and perhaps looking to curry favor with the church, Mocenigo betrayed his guest. In the dead of night, he locked Bruno in an attic and handed him over to the Venetian Inquisition. At first, Bruno thought he could talk his way out of it. He was a master debater, a man who had charmed kings and outsmarted scholars. He tried to argue that his philosophies were separate from his theology, which was a common defense at the time. But the Roman Inquisition was watching from afar. They demanded that Venice extradite the famous heretic to Rome. Surprisingly, Venice complied. In early 1593, Giordano Bruno was thrown into a dark, damp cell in the prisons of the Holy Office in Rome. He would remain there for 7 grueling years. The trial was agonizingly slow. He was interrogated relentlessly by the most brilliant and ruthless theological minds of the era, including Cardinal Robert Bellarmine, the very same man who would later prosecute Galileo. They pored over his books, underlining every heretical thought, every mention of infinite worlds, every challenge to Catholic dogma. They demanded that he recant. They wanted him to kneel, admit he was wrong, and beg for mercy. For 7 years, they tried to break his spirit. They subjected him to unimaginable psychological torment and likely physical torture, though the exact records of his abuse have been lost to history. But they could not break his mind. He offered compromises on minor theological points, but he absolutely refused to disavow his core belief in an infinite universe. He knew that to deny his philosophy was to deny the very nature of reality as he understood it. He would not lie to save his own life. Finally, the Inquisition had enough. On January 20th, 1600, Pope Clement VIII declared Bruno an unrepentant and obstinate heretic. He was brought before his judges to hear his death sentence. He was to be handed over to the secular authorities to be burned at the stake. As the sentence was read aloud in the stone chamber, condemning him to a fiery, agonizing death, Bruno did not weep. He did not beg. He stood tall, looked directly into the eyes of the powerful men who were sending him to his death, and delivered one of the most chilling and defiant lines in recorded history. He said, "Perhaps you pronounce this sentence against me with greater fear than I receive it." He understood something they didn't. He knew that their fear of his ideas was infinitely greater than his fear of their fire. February 17th, 1600. It was a freezing, cold morning in Rome, the year of the Jubilee, when thousands of pilgrims flooded the city streets. Bruno was stripped naked and paraded through the streets on a mule. His tongue was tied or clamped with an iron gag to prevent him from speaking his wicked words to the gathering crowd. They brought him to the Campo dei Fiori, the Field of Flowers. A wooden stake awaited him in the center of the bustling square. He was tied to the post. As the flames were lit and began to rise around his feet, a priest thrust a crucifix into his face, offering him one last chance to repent and kiss the symbol of the church. Even in his final agony, Bruno turned his head away in absolute disgust. He burned alive, his body turning to ash, scattered by the winter wind of Rome. The Inquisition believed that the fire would erase him. They thought that by burning the man, they could burn the idea of infinite worlds. But you cannot burn the truth. More than 400 years later, We look up at the exact same night sky that Bruno saw. We now know, through telescopes that reach into the deep dark cosmos, that he was absolutely right. There are billions of galaxies, each containing billions of suns, orbited by countless planets. The universe is more vast, more infinite, and more incredibly beautiful than even he could have fully imagined. Giordano Bruno was not a modern scientist. He didn't use telescopes or complex mathematics to prove his theories. He used intuition, philosophy, and a boundless, fearless imagination. He was a mystic, a magician of the mind, and the ultimate martyr for free thought. In 1889, a dark bronze statue of Giordano Bruno was erected in the exact spot where he was burned in the Campo de' Fiori. He stands there today, his head covered by his heavy monk's cowl, staring defiantly in the direction of the Vatican. It is a permanent reminder that the human mind cannot be caged, and that the universe is wide open for those brave enough to imagine it. So the next time you look up at the stars, remember the man who died, so that we might one day understand them. Remember Giordano Bruno, the man who was burned for imagining infinite worlds.